Greetings! You did not click on How to Be Joyful with Joy Zabo, but instead you have clicked on St. Paul's podcast Beyond the Sermon. During this time, we'll look beyond the words that our pastors that have preached that are full of life. I am your host, Michael Sinn, and today I have my Sunday preacher, Pastor Smith. Say hello to the
Hull?
people. Hello.
Hollow.
Yes. Have you ever been to the country of Indonesia?
I have not.
Well, if you go, you know how to say hello to them.
That's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so how excited were you about this surprise snowfall that we got Sunday, yesterday, and also this morning too?
I was fine with it. Yeah, I mean, at least where we are, we got 2, maybe 3 inches in Avon.
Okay.
So yeah, I thought after the ground had been white for so long and then all the snow melted, I thought the ground looks kind of boring now. We could use some
Yeah.
fresh snow.
I was thinking the same thing. And plus, you still have some time to train against Jack Frost with your snowboard
I
race.
do. Yeah, maybe. See, I might be missing the boat here.
Well, they still. I guess the runs are still open, so there's always that
Okay.
possibility.
Okay. Yeah. Look out, Jack Frost. Next year, take you down.
Downtown,
Hmm.
downtown Cleveland.
Yeah. There's some hills there, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about we well, let me get started before I ask you some sermon questions, and I have to say, props to you, good sir, that this is a challenging parable to teach on. Being difficulty to show, that love and compassion that is there, but still needs to be careful how it's being worded without losing its true meaning as well. And so, as I say that, so how in the world would you rate the difficulty of this text on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 is easiest sermon you've ever written, to 10, this is a headache from brainstorming, and I should have assigned this text to Pastor Josh.
I would put it pretty far up there, at least like an 8, I would say.
Oh, you also have to tell me the reasoning behind this, too.
No, you're just getting a number, and we're gonna move on. No. um, so I think I would put it at an 8 because I would probably reserve a 9 or a 10 if I had to preach from some minor prophet or like a really difficult intellectual part of an epistle or something. Like one of those things would be you'd have to do a lot more digging to get what the context is and then figure out how to communicate like kind of an obscure part of the Bible to people. This one at least is a story that Jesus tells. So people kind of can settle into, okay, well, I've heard some parables of Jesus before, but this one, there's not a lot of happy stuff going on the surface. So
Mm-mm.
I would say it's probably a solid 8. And it's just kind of a funny thing. I was looking at, because during this growing through the Bible
Mm-hmm.
emphasis this year, we've been preaching on something from the week of readings that is coming. And it was a tough week. It wasn't like I thought to myself, I'm going to preach on the hardest thing no matter what of this week. There was not a lot of other stuff. I mean, the teachings that Jesus makes and the back and forth conversations during the first part of Holy Week. There's a lot of judgment and condemnation. Like it's not a lot of sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah.
And so this was kind of one. I was between this one and then the other one is the vineyard where the master has a vineyard and leases it out to these other tenants. So I think they call it the parable of the wicked tenants is usually what it's called. And he keeps sending people to go get the fruits from the vineyard, and they keep killing them. And then finally he sends the son, and then here's the heir, let's kill him. And that's another one of
Mm-hmm.
condemnation. So I was like, well, I'm gonna do either that one or this wedding feast one, and I felt like the wedding feast, at least the setting of the wedding feast, like kind of throwing a party that no one shows up to, was a little bit more relatable than leasing out a vineyard to people who then kill the people that you send to pick up the grapes.
Yeah.
So it was between those two. But yeah, I was kind of shaking my fist at whichever person made up this reading schedule for us this year.
Ah,
So,
man, that person should have known better.
yeah, I don't know what he was thinking
Yeah.
for this week, but yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I would say an 8.
Okay.
Pretty hard. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so following up from that, knowing that you gave this a rating of an 8, which is pretty high on the difficulty list for that, was there any part of the text that you were specifically maybe trying to avoid to make it an 8 instead of a 9 or a 10?
So the very end of the parable, Jesus says, "Many are called, but few are chosen." And I wasn't like consciously like, after I read through it, I wasn't like, well, I'm not going to touch that part. But it's kind of a troubling saying, because you might hear that in one sense and think, it might make you wonder, well, am I one of the few that gets chosen? Because we think of this like being called. We use that in different ways sometimes. Usually we use that in a very positive, like, I've been called by God, I'm in. But it can be used in other ways too. And so after I worked through all the rest of the text, I felt like I had like more than enough. Like I was already kind of slicing and dicing stuff from that. And I got to that, and I did some reading on it. And the commentary that I was using talked about how sometimes in language, and especially even in like the Jewish culture, sometimes many doesn't mean many exactly. It can mean all.
Yeah.
Which fits with it. So if you substitute the word all for many in this parable, it makes sense, because the king is inviting everybody. Like, everybody gets invited. It even says in one line, the bad and the good. Like, so you read that, and so it means like everybody does receive the invitation to come to the wedding feast. God desires all people to be saved and to come to a knowledge of the truth. So everyone is invited. The gospel is available for everybody, but not everybody receives it, right? Not everybody believes it. Okay. And so then that few doesn't necessarily mean a low number. It just means less in relation to
like the majority.
Yeah. So it basically what he's saying is, one way to substitute would be, instead of many are called but few are chosen, it would just be not everybody is saved. Okay. I think that's what I gleaned from this commentary from a trusted professor that I once had. At the seminary. So I felt like, though, that would have taken a long time to insert into the sermon, and I feel like, so I did avoid that line. So maybe people were like, oh, that was the one line I was hoping he was going to talk about.
Yeah.
So but yeah, So I didn't touch that one. I felt like it was going to be too long of a tangent, and
yeah.
But maybe like the next time that I preach on this, because this does show up in the lectionary. So if we are back on the lectionary sometime, this actually shows up, I think, closer to the end of the church year is when it falls.
Okay.
Because it does a little bit kind of have that like end times, like you could preach an end time sermon, like a Judgment Day kind of sermon on this text, and that would feel more apt, I think, like, because it's not very warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you talked about the difficulty of this, and okay, how to go about this. Do I go this way or this way? And if you're going that way, then you probably have changed your idea or like scrapped it or went in another direction of that. So like, how many different ideas did you possibly have from the original plan that you had?
Well, I think any Lutheran pastor worth his salt would look at this text and get to the part about the guy not wearing the right thing. And there are enough other Bible passages about how we are clothed with Christ's righteousness that you would just think, oh, this is a slam dunk. I'm going to preach it like that. There's this, and there's even this kind of thought about. You've probably heard a sermon about this. I've definitely heard multiple sermons about this. Like in ancient times, if someone was throwing a wedding feast, they would provide a wedding garment for each guest to wear. And then this guy doesn't wear it. What the heck? Why isn't he wearing it? And so you can preach that so easily, like the Father has provided what you need to wear. It's the righteousness of Christ. And if you try to just wear your own thing, like your own works, your own pride, you're not going to get in. You have to be clothed in Christ. That just preaches, it's so easy. And now that is true, but that using that analogy is not faithful to the facts of the parable. Like there's really no evidence that in ancient times the host would provide a wedding garment for someone. So again, in the same commentary that I was reading, the guy was like, you really can't responsibly preach it that way. So that was like, I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of it's a tough parable, but I kind of have this line of preaching, and then I got to that, I'm like, oh shoot, I don't want to, like, now that I've read that, I'll feel disingenuous if like that's the path, even though you could preach that same type of sermon from a different text. I think it's not really a faithful sermon based on this particular text. So I was kind of chastened by that and thought, okay, I got to do something. So that was my initial kind of thought, that I could preach it that way. So I kind of swerved into, let's just be aware and upfront that this is a hard sermon. This is a hard story.
Yeah.
And just kind of like, I felt like more than I usually do, I was trying to be kind of one person representing the whole congregation, trying to make sense of this thing and wrestle with it, and kind of be like, hey guys, this is what the Holy Spirit led me to discern from this.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about it. So it was a little bit more of a, at least I thought, less of a cohesive point-by-point sermon than maybe I usually do, and it was a little more of a scattered, but kind of like, hey, lay it all out there, this is a hard teaching, and let me just kind of tell you what I learned almost. So I guess from that standpoint, sometimes people will make a distinction between like teaching and preaching, and some people are like, I don't really know what the difference is, but some people will make a big difference between those two. I feel like this was maybe more of a like, quote, teaching sermon this time, where I was kind of just dumping a lot of notes and findings, hopefully in some type of a coherent way. But if people thought it was incoherent, that's a fair opinion.
All right. Well, I'll do a survey among the people on Wednesday when they're here for a service. So
you can have them rank 1 to 10. How coherent was the sermon?
Yes.
It is funny though. I did have a lot of positive feedback on the sermon, and I think I found that I think people appreciate when they get to hear a sermon on a text that they find to be difficult also. I think they sometimes appreciate that. I know I have in the past too, when I've been excited when pastors that I've heard in the past have tackled a more difficult topic or sermon text. I'm like, oh, good on you for trying that. So I think I said to somebody, I think on Sunday, I think I said, man, if I had only been a pastor for a few years, this would have been like the text that I would have skipped.
Yeah.
I would have picked a different one.
Yeah.
But I feel more ready to take on a text like this now, I guess.
You wanted the challenge.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right. Now, my next question I have for you is, how did you make sure to include Jesus within your sermon in this parable when he wasn't mentioned in the parable except for the very first verse of Jesus spoke to them?
Yeah, right.
And then
yeah.
that was it. So
yeah.
how did you make sure to include Jesus?
Yeah, you have to squint and you can see him like, okay, it is this wedding feast is being thrown in his honor, like he's the son, the king, the father character is God the Father, God the Son. So that was he was kind of more in the background, I would say. But I did try to make it explicit toward the end that talking about like our unworthiness, and the only way that we're invited, the only way that we're on the list is because of the worthiness. Like the Son, this is kind of like counterintuitive to how like a wedding feast would normally work, but like the Son, in whose honor the feast is being thrown, he's the one that does the hard work to make us worthy, like to kind of get us on the list. So it's the problem in the parable is the enemies of the Son are dishonoring him and shaming him by rejecting his invitation, and it's the Son himself then who undergoes that. He kind of, I don't know if welcomes is the right word, but he willingly endures that dishonor and that shame and that rejection by people so that the likes of us might be part of the wedding feast then. And I made a connection to like there's this desire that the Father and the Son have to be in fellowship with us, and it's not just in eternity. It's it's weekly in worship. It's even in our homes. Like you could have this sense of there's this opportunity to feast with the Lord in His Word and prayer. So I was trying to bring that home a little bit, because a lot of times this if you talk about the marriage feast of the Lamb, which that was in the Revelation reading that we had, I think we make a mistake if we only think about that being in eternity. There is a foretaste of the feast to come. Sometimes we refer to that we refer to communion as that.
Yep.
But I think any time that there's like a time when we're encountering God in His Word, we can say that that's a foretaste of the feast to come. So, and Jesus is there as He's promised to be.
Okay. All right. My last question then for you is, well, I'm gonna kind of ask it from a different kind of angle question.
Okay.
So before any words, are written down, is there anything that you'd like to kind of highlight for the hearers about, like, the process of setting up and writing down the sermon?
Yeah. Yeah, so there are different resources that pastors will use to preach. I don't, rarely, I think, is it just a pastor sitting down with an English language Bible and nothing else and just cranking out a sermon. I mean, that probably does happen.
Hopefully
Rarely.
not.
Yeah, rarely.
No.
But there are all sorts of other resources, and I'm just going to talk about one today. But I think we'll kind of bring out some other resources or other parts of the preaching process, maybe in other episodes. But especially when there is a difficult text, I will lean on more resources. I think that probably makes sense, to the average person. Yeah. So there's this one resource, and it's called Lectionary at Lunch. And
Did you read this at lunch? During lunch?
I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't, but I have before. So at the seminary, and I don't even know if they still do this or not, but when I was there, and even for years, I think the years before and years after, they would pick a different professor each week, and they would look at the lectionary readings for the Old Testament, the Epistle, the Gospel that are appointed for the coming week. And during lunch in the cafeteria, they would talk about the reading. So so I found one. You can search by text because they don't have one for every text, but for most of them. And so I was like, I wonder if they have the parable of the wedding feast on there, and they did. Actually, two different professors in different years did it. And so they'll walk through. First, they'll read it in Greek, and they'll offer some thoughts about interesting notes about the Greek that you wouldn't get from just reading it in English. And then they'll just give some kind of like off the cuff thoughts about the meaning of the passage, how you might preach it, how you might approach it. And so yeah, not every single time I preach do I do that, but I would say more often than not, but especially when it's a really hard text.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and it's very worthwhile. I would even say for the average layperson, I think they would probably enjoy it. They are a little bit hard to find now, because they're kind of old. The audio files aren't even that good.
Yeah.
Some of the audio is kind of hard to listen to, but it's something. It doesn't like write your sermon for you by any means, but it will sometimes nudge you in a particular direction. It will clarify something. It will, and in this case, it was this that was telling me this wedding garment business is really not a responsible way to preach this. So I was like, oh man, because it was that coupled with this commentary that I was reading. I'm like, well, shucks, I'm gonna have to do some different work on this, but yeah, so that's one of the things it's called. Yeah, lectionary at lunch. I think there's a good number of other LCMS pastors that use this resource too. I remember going to it a few times when I was at the seminary. Yeah, it was just kind of a fun to like get to interact with your professors in a way outside of class like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Good deal. All right. Well, that's all I have for your sermon questions. Now it's time to move on to the deer in the headlight questions. And so, from time to time, I have been known to play Fortnite with my brother-in-law and niece and nephew. And they currently have a special going on in there right now where you can drive the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Okay.
Did you ever see that movie?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Back to the Future 2, right? It takes place in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the year 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that was over 10 years ago kind of now, right?
It's crazy to think about.
And, have you ever, you see those movies, it's like, oh, they're in the future, but, they have predicted, we don't have this or this or this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Invention. So, here's my question for you. After seeing these movies that have taken place in the future, but now they're old and they're in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
What invention are you surprised that companies have not made today based on those movies?
It has to be specifically based on the movies, or just anything at all. Yeah. Didn't they predict that the Cubs were going to win the World Series in that movie?
They did, yes.
I think they were maybe 1 year off though.
Oh, man, I could.
Because it hits a little too close to Cleveland, but the Cubs won the World Series against the Indians in 2016.
Oh, I do. I got booed on one of my children's messages for making that comment.
Yeah. If you have to lose to somebody, though, losing to the Cubs is pretty okay, I think. Just like if you would have lost to the Dodgers or the Yankees, it's like, well, not that the Indians going to put the Yankees in the World Series, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you're losing to a team like that, you're more upset about it. Inventions, man, it's hard. I know an easy one to say is flying cars or something, which I think we feel like we talk about that like they are. Isn't there some kind of a prototype for a flying car? Someone told me that recently.
I don't know if it was me.
Okay, you seem like the kind of person that would break news to me about a flying car.
There's different prototypes you see online, but it's like, oh, this is so many years away in the future still.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. It's hard for me to. I'm trying to think of some part of my life that I wish were more automated.
If it helps, I'm kind of surprised there still hasn't been a shrink ray yet.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we watched the Honey I Shrunk the or Blew Up the
Yeah.
movies recently. So I mean, Hollywood has that, that idea already.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, how do we know that there hasn't been? Maybe the government has it and they're just not sharing it with us.
This is true. I don't know.
there's little tiny people. Man, Michael, you've stumped me. I don't know.
That's a rare thing, too.
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to think of just parts of my life.
Teleportation or jetpack.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so the thing that I've always wanted was control over time. So like
Oh.
pausing time,
Okay.
or like redoing, like going back just a few seconds.
Yeah.
So I suppose that would be a pretty good one. I don't know, like a robot that could just make breakfast for me. That would be kind of nice.
Okay. That is actually kind of on the like they have the prototypes out now from Tesla.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of robots, but then there's like kind of some controversy about maybe the robots aren't really quite as ready as they're saying that they are.
Yeah.
I've read some stuff like that. Um, you know, I'll throw this out there because I am colorblind.
Okay.
I don't think they have colorblind contact lenses.
I don't think so. I think
And
it's
if
just
they
glasses.
did, so they have the glasses, yeah. And I actually one of my relatives got some for Christmas a few years ago, but like I tried them on and I didn't notice a difference. But I think you have to wear them consistently. Like it's not like you just put them on and it just all of a sudden you can see. I think your eye has to get conditioned
Yeah.
to it. But I have wondered before, like, what does some parts of the world really look like? So I'll go with that. Why haven't they made colorblind contact lenses yet?
All right.
Come on.
Let's get on the phone with the St. Paul R&D department.
Yeah. Oh, it's a big department. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, there you have it. Contact lens for colorblind people.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Very good.
We need some help.
All right. Well, that is going to be our show for today. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Beyond the Sermon. Next week, I will have Pastor Josh join us. I'm your host, Michael Sinn. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Goodbye.